Stage left, the audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. Rises and the players come out. Webs of light spinning from their mouths. Start looking, listen for a little while. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. Drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow breathing in your blood. It's never enough. Program reality, double thing duality, a boot upon the face of all mankind. Our numbers up and the dead woman sign. Go along to get along, hypnotized by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The horde's upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait your turn. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's best. Worldwide genocide. The overlords of hungry parasites. They point the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire, children die. Starving plague, paralyzed. Pile of bodies rotting, covered in fire. But no one wants to talk about it. It's safer not to talk about it. I cut my strings, no more bowing to the master. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol, in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Oh my gosh, we're totally blown out there to the Iron Mountain Hour here on this Sunday, New Year's Eve, 12/31/2023. We're so glad to have you with us, me and Dustin in the studio tonight.
Okay, I gotta say this.
There we go.
Playing out live, are you adjusting it? Whoa!
Yeah, it's a little trippy there, isn't it? But we got it all straightened out there now. We're doing a little camera magic, and I was making some adjustments on my camera, and all of a sudden, everything just went super dark, and I was changing the frame rate,
I don't know why that would just make the camera go. Everything was good. Then I changed the frame rate and everything goes super
What did
dark.
you change it to by chance?
I changed it to highest frame rate. It was set on 30, and I changed it to highest frame rate, and then I just set it back to 30.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to say, because frame rate does work like exposure in a way. Maybe it's not, that doesn't pick it up.
Maybe, but whatever it was not quality. But we're getting better there. I think I need a little adjustment left to do, but we can kind of do that on the fly here, and I want a little less brightness maybe, and let's see what that looks like. I don't know. Maybe it needs a little bit more work, but I'm not great on camera settings, but I think it gives a pretty clear picture there, and it has a lot more options than the camera I was using. So with a little time, we'll have that in order. Thank you very much, B. That was a lovely gift from you. And we will get into the goods of the episode tonight. But first, I'm going to do a little beer flip, right? Because I started to flip it myself before. Now this is fresh with Dustin's water in it because he flipped it into his water a minute ago.
I was practicing. I went whoop.
Yeah, so it's got a little bit of cool, calm, cold water on it. But we're going to flip it heads. We're going to do Janus, the two-faced god. But heads, we tie him in. And we talk about Project Looking Glass, and tails, we tie him into, we're going to talk about the old calendars that we got into a little bit last year. So heads is, which one's heads? I guess Sam Adams is head and Cheers is tails.
Okay.
All right, so heads is Looking Glass. Looking Glass it is.
Okay.
All right, so that's pretty cool. That'll be fun talk. We haven't really got into that a whole lot on this channel, and there's really not a lot out there as far as things that you can verify for it. So it'll be fun to get into, and hopefully you all will join us in the chat and can let us know what you think about these things. Maybe you know a little bit more than I. But I want to give you a welcome on this very special New Year's Eve, and hope you're out there partying safely wherever you are. I'm not the party on New Year's Eve type myself as far as go out in public.
It's like I'll go to some people's houses sometimes, with a few other people and do it that way. But yeah, I don't know if I've ever done a New Year's in a major public setting like a bar or a party or.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that. If they got free champagne, I'm usually not interested. Where's our chat, man? Chat window went away. Let's pull it back up here and see if we can.
Though B is having a party.
Yes, we got B partying in the chat. So welcome. Let's get this off of the Twitter chat. So if we start getting some Twitter chatters in there, I'll turn it back on. But for right now, we're going to stick to strictly YouTube. So everybody gas those geese and get in the chat. We're doing tonight, Dalton, if you're interested, having a little maker's mark. I'm going to have a little neat. Dustin, I got you a glass there and some ice if you want to have one. And if you want to have rocks, you got them there.
Yep.
I poured a little more than I meant to, so you'll have to drink that one slowly.
Yeah.
But we'll do us a toast here.
And since we're still missing Tim, he's been working hard from dusk till dawn.
That's right. Tim actually,
Old Timmy Twister.
he had to cancel his gigs this weekend. He's a sick man, so he wasn't able to come in. What's up, Aaron Armageddon Hour? Nice to have you in the chat. Well, I hope you are staying well this evening. I know you're not drinking this evening, but I hope you're having a good night. Don't have to drink to have a good time. I do it all the time without it, but I do like to have a drink every now and then. So, Dustin, let's cheer to a prosperous new year here at the Iron Mountain Hour. Little Maker's Mark hits the spot, and I've been drinking Red Bull and vodka earlier, and some people say you shouldn't drink white liquor and then switch to brown, or you'll get sick. It's never really mattered to me. I mean, I've always, I've also heard liquor before beer, you're in the clear. Beer before liquor, never sicker. I think if you just drink too much, either way, it's not really going to matter. I think if you drink in moderation, you're going to be okay. And if you don't drink in moderation, it doesn't matter if you have your fifth of Jack before your 12 pack of Budweiser. You're going to be fucked either way.
Either one of those variables is not good.
Yeah.
So it's like when you combine them together, it's not good anyway. So
exactly. Well, listen, we had a pretty wild year this year, so we're going to do a little bit of a recap. We've had pretty much, if you look around this area, we can go back to the beginning of last year that we had Sean Williams, is that his name? Gosh, I can't think of his name.
Yeah,
Sean Williams. Yeah, the drama going down with that. He's made it to a national publication called Law and Crime because
the amount of extortion that came out from him, and the fact that bastard escaped twice from
escaped. He did, didn't he? Yes. So we got this story from Law and Crime. This is a big national publication here.
I saw whenever they sent him to the hospital for self-inflicted wounds, I was like, if that son of a bitch escapes again, it's like, I would just be like, there's something.
A self-inflicted puncture wound that they said, right? So that has to make you wonder, do you think maybe somebody tried to off him? Because isn't that the way? We've been drawing the connections to Epstein with this case the whole time. And included in Epstein's saga was right before he actually killed himself. His cellmate attempted to kill him, maybe a couple of times, even if I recall correctly, but at least once. And so we have this guy right here. He was supposedly tried to off himself in his cell with some sort of spike that he punctured himself with. Just seems like to me, a puncture wound would be more indicative of somebody else attacking you with a weapon more than you trying to off yourself. Because typically in prison, especially, people choke themselves out somehow, hang themselves, or maybe even pick a fight. But to shank yourself, that's a long, painful way to die.
Prison seppuku with your toothbrush.
Yeah, really. Shoo.
That wasn't on the bingo card for this year.
Yeah, I would not have confidence in that method.
Nope.
It's like, if you're trying to find a way, you want to be successful if you're going to do this thing. You don't want to lay there and writhe in agony and wait for someone to discover you. So, I don't know, the whole thing seems kind of fishy to me.
Kind of fishy. And I guess you would say if there's one good thing about people who are incarcerated, they don't like people that hurt children or do things to,
Yeah, but the problem is they put all of them together. See, I have a buddy who has a friend, and he was involved in a non-violent felony offense that ended up getting him put with a bunch of those suckers, and they, pretty much where he's at, they're the most of the population there. So it's like nothing really happens to any of them because they all, and dude's brother's like, yeah, they all talk about it all the time and make excuses for why they do it and why they're not bad people even though they did it. And he's just like, I just tell them to shut up all the time, but nobody ever does. And so he has to listen to them. So, yeah, it sounds, and when they put him in with Gen Pop, yeah, things don't work out well for them, but most of the time they actually try to avoid that, unfortunately. It depends on how you look at it, I guess. You harm kids, I think you get, you're asking for the worst punishment possible. In my opinion, you deserve the worst punishment possible, but we also don't have an infallible legal system like we've talked about before. It's the main reason I don't really, it's like in theory, right, I believe in the death penalty as far as somebody is so dangerous that we cannot leave them on the streets. Why would we house them forever? Why would we not just end the problem with them? But at the same time, I don't trust the institutions that have the power to do that, to be right, because they're wrong so many times. I think it's like 3% of death row executions have been innocent. That's a pretty damn large amount when you consider, especially that we're founded on the idea of I think it was Franklin that was talking about John Locke's work when he said, it's better that 100 men go free than one innocent man be deprived of his life and liberty or something like that. But that whole idea was, yes, it's not perfect system of justice. We are going to miss some, but we always will err on the side of liberty and the human being. And so you must prove that someone did something wrong. But in the case that you cannot, as the state, prove that one of these people actually did something wrong, sometimes if someone in the general public were to do something to them to take care of the problem, well, maybe you couldn't figure out enough to prove that either. You know what I mean? So we see cases that, like the woman who killed her kid rapist and murderer in the courtroom, the guy who killed his kids molester in the from the payphone, the famous, I can't remember his name, William. The sunglasses man and hat, and he turns around and handles business. Now those guys still get punished, but they were very lenient with them
because it's like, well, yeah, it's like that's.
Yes, and they did it right in front of people.
And you're like, when you see it, you're like, well, that's the guy that did that to his kid, so it's like, that's fair.
Yeah, then they did it on camera, and they had a pretty, pretty lenient sentence. So I imagine, there's probably a lot of instances where people take care of business like this on their own, and we just can't figure out what happened to them. But at least I would hope that was the case, because the state sure isn't taking punishment.
Wasn't that based off the true story of that movie, A Time to Kill? It had Samuel L. Jackson in it. He was like a father. His kid was killed by two people. It was like in I think Mississippi
burning, or no
basically like it was a race hatred crime, and they basically dragged the kid behind their truck and stuff. And whenever they're going to trial, it's like he goes into the courtroom. Yeah,
Time to Kill.
Yeah, he like takes the AR from the people there, and he kills both of them, and then they take him through trial.
And they all agree that it was A Time to Kill. And yes, it was. And
it's things like that, because it's like sometimes, like we said, there are times the justice system sometimes it doesn't work in the favor of what it needs to be. Like people like that will somehow end up free.
Yep. And a lot of times they do. And I'm not. In general, you're not a fan of, I'm not a fan of vigilante justice, but at least honestly, I am, but it's like, if you have to do vigilante justice, that means society is totally broken down. So I guess that's why I'm not in favor of it so much, because we shouldn't have to, with the amount of resources that law enforcement has. If they would actually handle business, they shouldn't be a need for vigilante justice. But you just have so many things that they do that are unnecessary, and
because the government knows how many times you squeeze to pop that turd out you did earlier. So I mean, they should.
But rather than arresting the meth houses, if you talk to people, like all over Carter County, especially around the time of the sheriff's election last time, you talk to people and they're talking about how there's a drug house right next to my house and the law won't do anything about it, right? Okay, well, maybe the law doesn't have the evidence that, they're going, I don't necessarily even agree with the law going in and bust them because they're a drug house, but if they're making meth in there and doing something that endangers people, or making, an unsafe thing, well, let's use the resources to figure out what they're doing, who's coming and going, and go after those people that are actually posing a threat to society and their community, not just randomly driving around and hope you pull somebody over with drugs in the car. And that seems to be what they do more than anything. And then every now and then, every 2 or 3 years, they'll go kick a few doors in and take a couple of pot plants from people. And we did have a big meth bust the other day, though. I will say that they had like 279 grams, but it's nothing in the greater scheme of things. What's up, Tim versus everyone? Logan's Run is about those 15-minute cities. Yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, ultimately, that's where we end up, brother, is in those, in all the science fiction. All the dystopian science fiction, you end up in some version of that. Whether it's, the Matrix, where you're in a virtual city where you can go wherever you want, but you're never leaving your own head. You're still in your tank the whole time. Or you're in something like a THX 1138 or a Logan's Run, or an Equilibrium, or even a 1984 or Brave New World. Any of those, really, you're stuck in your general area, unless in like the instances of 1984 or Brave New World, and you're an aristocrat of some sort or an elite. Then you have the ability to travel, and it's really like that in most of them. And I mentioned a movie we've mentioned on the channel before that I didn't think was really a great movie, but it was kind of a retelling of that kind of story, is the Humanity Bureau with Nicolas Cage. It was basically kind of the same thing, except instead of people living in the 15-minute cities, they would do kind of the the thing where they would just take the undesirables people couldn't contribute and just off them. So it's either you trap them in a society where they're useful to the elites, and then the ones who aren't useful they just get rid of, and then the rest of them, you know,
which that's been proven historically accurate in a few instances of the 20th century.
Oh, if you're wondering where we got that, we were coming out of the chat there, y'all. So sorry if I didn't address that came from the chat. Aaron Armageddon, he's talking about, he's got me drinking Maker's Marker cranberry vodka, furry mink coat that fur is that Chewbacca. I don't know where that's from, but it's pretty funny to me. It sounds like a little bubby child from Facebook. You ever follow those? Man,
I love those.
Those are hilarious. They protect child molesters like some kind of endangered animal. Disgusting. I agree.
It should be an extinct animal.
I agree. Yeah, we should definitely give out permits on them, right? That'd be you know, you want to get real dystopian. Guys, look, you're going to keep going dystopian. You're going to put us in 15-minute cities. You're going to make us not be able to fly. You're going to make us eat bugs. At least give us tickets to go hunt pedophiles, right? I mean, because if we're going to go full dystopian, let's play the most dangerous game at least, right? Because so we're getting all the shitty parts, right?
It's like in 1980, it's like, or what was that? Didn't they say that in 1984? It's like, you know, it's like give them cake and sports and stuff like that, and they'll, you know, they won't rebel. It's
yeah, well, I mean, you go back to bread and circus in the Roman days, but yeah,
that's what I was. Somebody they quoted that in one of those.
Yeah, and
something with that.
Probably in Brave New World more than 1984, because they did in 1984 they were more focused on just destroying their will to do anything other than be a part of the state, just utterly destroying their humanity. Whereas in, you know, something like Brave New World, they were using their indulgences. Everybody was on drugs. Shut up, nobody's talking to you. These robots.
Guess, you know, if we want to throw in the hunting permits, you could throw it into like some Running Man kind of scenario.
Yeah. So at least something good, you know.
It's like, okay, hey, if they're do it like Running Man, if they're in prison, give them a chance. You're like, hey, if you can get through this gauntlet of stuff, you're all right then.
Yeah, and the whole thing about things like Running Man and the Hunger Games is like, for those watching them and like not directly participating in it,
death race.
Yeah, there's still some sort of we're not even getting the entertainment value. I mean, all our entertainment sucks, right? I mean, we do get these guys hunting the predators on YouTube and Twitter. I have been watching Alex Rosen and his predator catchers on Twitter. That's been very entertaining. But yeah, to kind of get back around to Sean Williams, Running Man's one of my favorite, man. I agree, Aaron. Back to Sean Williams, we were talking about how this hit a national story, and we've been on this from the beginning. The Law and Crime. This was they're accusing him of a multi-year sex trafficking conspiracy to shield the serial rapist whose victims included children in exchange for hundreds of thousands in cash. Lawsuit claims. Now they're being sued. Saying that multiple police officers took large sums of money and protected Sean Williams. I have a different view on this, and we've talked about this before, and this is going into the lawsuit. So the lawsuit is accusing them of taking a bribe. But if you read into this, I'm not sure that they actually know really that he took a bribe, other than there's got to be some reason that he was protected from all this. So the lowest hanging fruit is a bribe. To me, I think that we're missing the point if we think it's all about bribery. And maybe it does turn out it is about bribery. But can you imagine being a police officer and letting someone do the things that he did to women and children for like a few $100,000? Spread out amongst several departments? I think there's got to be more than that. It's got to be there was wrongdoing on these officers' part in some way, and he capitalized on that and had evidence of it in some way.
There's some sort of
has to be. It can't just be
sort of
money.
like black tape. You know, like he's got a buck on something.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now we already know the cops found the images, CDs and videos of images of him with victims, some of them underage. But we also know that other people were mentioned in those videos, but we don't know who they were. So does that mean there were other perpetrators does it mean that there were people was he always the perpetrator, or was he sometimes filming it and the other person was, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So how was this exactly working out? We don't really know. But this lawsuit is a step in the right direction, because when discovery starts happening, we're going to figure out when every one of these officers, including the chief of police, who resigned as soon as this stuff started making the making the airwaves. They took an early retirement. All the bigwigs in Johnson City Police Department took an early retirement, got paid off. That was when I said, I know this is serious because they're getting out of the way, but you ain't getting out of the way, guys. Guess what? Everybody knows that you were there when it happened, and it's way bigger than you now. So it's too late to run. It's too late to hide. So anyway, let's pray for some good information that hits the light of day from the discovery in this lawsuit, and maybe we'll put down a whole lot more of these bastards, because I guarantee you, if Sean Williams, if he was, well, we know he was not the only one involved, but there's no way this was just about money.
Yeah.
There's no amount of money you could give me what I would protect a dude that was harming women and children. There's no amount of money you could give me.
And also, it's like, there's no way that greasy-looking fella could be a Harry Houdini that well and escape transit twice.
Well, our friend Armageddon Hour has dealt with him as security personnel, because he frequented the downtown area, and we'll just put it this way: Aaron says he's no Jason Bourne. So,
Aaron has a couple more.
Yeah, let's get in the chat here. Human trafficking, drugs, and CP. Absolutely, he's a Fed. Well, maybe he is, Aaron, but I think more likely he has blackmailed the Feds, and is probably he's probably either working for a larger ring, which would be my first guess. That, because it's not like he's a kingpin, right? I mean, he owned a corner garage and drove a Ferrari around Johnson City. I don't know what else he owned, but there's plenty richer people in Johnson City than this guy. But I feel like he was probably in on the bottom rung of a very high ladder that led, to overseas. Who knows what all? But all that stuff you mentioned, Aaron, the human trafficking, drugs, and CP. This is not small time. Well, he might have been the small time.
He may have been
part of it.
The one that goes with the end user, and then it goes up all that other. He was.
But just like you see, he's not. He look at everybody covering up for him, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not just him, or I don't think anybody would be covering. I don't know what he had. He had a couple of those fancy looking cars on there. I have no idea what they were. And he said, Aaron says it's a janky ass kit car, wasn't even a Ferrari.
Okay, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, I know the car you're talking about. It was a kit car.
I've seen a couple of Fiero kit cars around there, but I've not seen any like a new Ferrari kit cars.
Mm-hmm. It was older. I know the one you were talking about.
What happens is they use men like him as informants and let them get away with stuff to get busts. Yes, that's true, Aaron. They do, but they don't let him get away with this kind of stuff. So to me, the fact that he was covered up and let to get away with this kind of stuff, we're dealing with something bigger than just him being a Fed, or maybe not bigger, but if he was just a Fed, he wouldn't be getting away with this openly, because it's the Feds that are actually bringing him down. That if it weren't for the Feds, it wouldn't even
charges of him shooting a dog. So
yeah. Like Charles Manson. Well, yeah, I mean, there's something to that, I guess, but I still, like I said, I don't think they let him get away with that on, because this is like a lower level operation, all right? So this would mean the Feds would be having the JCPD and all these other. The Feds would be paying off the JCPD and Tennessee Highway Patrol. I don't see that really happening that way. Not that they wouldn't do that, but that's kind of the way you get caught. And that's kind of the way you actually get in trouble for this kind of stuff. But anyway, that's enough about that. That's been the biggest story of the year. It's getting bigger. We've been pretty much covering it the whole time. The rest of the stuff we had, we've talked about the smart cities. We've talked about the smart poles. We've talked about the license plate reading cameras with the software that stores every car that goes through the town. It stores all their whereabouts, all the information about them, where you're going.
Fantastic. The least fanatical thing we've talked about have been the cryptids and the weird stuff.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
It's the least weird sounding stuff whenever you listen to some of the other stuff that we spoke about.
Yeah, you're right. So if you haven't already, go ahead and like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel on X, subscribe on YouTube and Twitter, and definitely get in there and mix it up in the chat. Let us know what you think about some of these things. Email us at theironmountainhour@gmail.com. We also got into the gosh, we've gotten into so many different things over the years.
Was it this year or was that
yeah, that's what I was trying to think. It's like the TVA's new plans for the region. We've gotten into the smart city network, all the global smart city grid. We've gotten into how the Obama government in 2015 funded the smart city initiative with the express purpose, and we showed it on the screen in federal government documents, how the whole reason that they're funding these smart cities is so the federal government has a reason to be involved on your local level functions. That's the whole reason these things exist. Now, do we want smart traffic control? Do we want smart flood flood control? Do we want smart parking? All this, that all sounds great, but it is literally it's the federal government's nose. If the federal government's a camel, that's its nose coming under our tent, right? And once you get that nose under the tent, the camel's in there. You're not going to turn him back out. But that's the stated purpose. We showed you the documents on this channel. We also showed you in 2013 how Maui was set up to be the smart island, and when they had a big fucking fire, they couldn't even pull the fire alarm. So do you really want to trust this smart technology to run all of our lives? Because it's fixing to. So that's been a big part of the year. But last year we talked a little bit about Janus, the two-faced god, around this time, right? And so I thought it would kind of be apropos to do that again around the same time, but we'll get into it in a little more depth because I've got an interesting article here from, of all places, a lock company called Anderson Lock, and they've got a really interesting story on Janus. Let me find him here. Janus, he's also a god of doors. We get into some of the ancient Roman mythology and facts, and this is a commercial. This is a locksmith and lock company, but they have one of the best stories on it. So
the stupid little React thing, I can't read this one. I can't read all of it because of the...
Oh, okay.
The little...
Transparency starts when local law enforcement decrypts their radio comms. Yeah, you're right, Aaron, and that's another thing we've got into on the channel this year.
Black Duck.
Oh, Black Duck. Okay.
Popping 294.
Thanks, Black Ducks. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that was why we got into with Scanner Food, and we shared their petition about how the Virginia State Police are trying to encrypt all their radios, and they're planning to, and not only their state police, but all the emergency service radios. That's how places like Scanner Food get this news out to us that the regular news is not fast enough to do. When people watch local news on WJHL, WCYB, wherever you watch it, the newspaper, when you hear it on the radio, they have, a time for the news, right? But if your kid's school bus is going to be late, the news is not going to be out there. If there was a shooting, say, near your kid's school, like this just happened the other day, and the school doesn't notify you about it, well, at least you got Scanner Food listening over the airwaves, and they know, and you can say, hey, holy shit, I better get down to the school. There's something going on down there. There's all these ways that the news is not able to be on the ball, where places like Scanner Food and other independent media sources can. So we really need to support those, and we really need to...
And it kind of plays into the two-handed sword of what they always say to us. If you don't have anything to hide, why are you scared?
Exactly.
It's like if you're not wanting to hide anything, why are you wanting to encrypt everything?
Exactly. And I've said I could understand the need for encryption. Like if you got like some a meth house or something that you're going to raid, you don't want to go on the public radio waves and be like, okay, we're going around the back door. Okay, encrypt that. Okay, that's understandable. Nobody's asking you to unencrypt that. We're saying that whenever guys are sent out, okay, there's somebody we're looking for in this area. We're looking for a suspect that's been breaking into people's cars. Well, somebody should tell the public about that. And Scanner Food, thank you so much if you're out there for doing that, because it is a public service that you provide, and I know you're not compensated for it, although you should be. But I'll tell you what, Scanner Food, you get on X and you build a following like you have on Facebook, you will be compensated for it on there. So I would invite you to post more on there, man, because y'all... it seems like about a 10th or a 20th of what you post on Facebook, and I don't really do Facebook, but I do X. I said do. We'd love to see you on there more if you're out there. And Black Duck, thank you for the comment. We appreciate you joining in.
Happy New Year's, Dalton.
Scatter food is how I found out my flip house burned down, Tim said. Cops never even bothered to call him. Yeah, so a perfect example. Then thank you very much, Black Duck. Dalton, what's up, brother? Happy New Year to you, brother. I double brothered you there, but I've been drinking the Maker's Mark. That's just for you, Dalton, because I know you like to know. And I don't blame you. What are you drinking tonight, Dalton? I'd like to know. And everybody else in the chat, if you're having a drink with us, let's all do a cheers to 2023. I mean, listen, for what we expected for 2023, not wasn't too bad. I mean, I honestly thought it would be. I thought we'd have this some kind of black swan event like people are predicting for next year. I kind of thought we'd have one this year, but yeah, maybe not. Let's hope not. Unfortunately, it looks like Carter County is going to hop on the statewide trunk system, so they may encrypt like Sullivan in Washington County already has. Well, I wouldn't be surprised there, Black Duck, because these guys are all really working together on this. And just like we saw Kingsport when they did the license plate reading cameras, Elizabethton followed suit less than a year later, and we jumped in the Flock security bandwagon. So I wouldn't be surprised to see other places do that also, including Washington County, Johnson City, but I don't. Guys, I don't know why you don't. I mean, I'm not really talking to our viewers, but if there's somebody new out here that hasn't really gotten this, I don't know why we don't see this as a threat that it is. This is basically giving the public authorities the ability to build a case against anyone for any time at any time for anything. Because if they have a total record of your traffic and a total record of everywhere your vehicle's been, they can put you next to a crime at some point and connect you to it and show evidence for it. It sounds like one of those things, you show me the man, I'll show you the crime, and you can indict a ham sandwich. Well, you indict that ham sandwich, and then you have a record of him driving past the place every day that you say that he stopped and committed a crime. Well, that looks pretty compelling, but it's actually the man's just driving to work and back. And so it really gives you the ability to use evidence that's not evidence against somebody. Now, is it so awful
if
if
some Minority Report bullshit? You're like, hey, we'll build it up so when you commit the crime,
right?
We got you.
Yeah, and it's like it
not an if, it's like a when you do.
And when, like we've talked about on the show, and Tim, I know you don't necessarily agree with me, but you do commit 3 to 6 felonies every day, whether you believe it or not, whether you know it or not, you do. Almost everybody does. I don't personally. I don't break the law ever, but I'm sure you don't either, Dustin. We're public figures. We never break the law, but the average person does indeed break the law, commit 3 felonies a day, at least according to the study that I read. And when I started doing things like looking through, it is a violation of federal law to use this product in a manner other than its intended manner. Mm-hmm. So if you use an insecticide or barbecue lighter and you don't follow the instructions on it, you're violating federal law, buddy. Guess what? So you use your lighter fluid to start a brush fire. If the feds decided that they wanted to bust you for it, they could. Now, do they? No. But it's kind of like Dustin said, they've always got you. The idea, though, that they can build this case against you when you haven't done anything. Now, again, like we said with the smart cities, it's not that I'm against smart flood control or smart traffic control or smart parking or whatever. It's that you're not only are you joining this Flock security system that is a 2,000 city, 42 state network of cameras, so you'll never be able to hide from this thing as they keep expanding it to further cities. So right now you got like the FBI calling Trump supporters terrorists, calling school parents who protest at school board terrorists, right? So what happens when they decide that they're going to come after you for being a terrorist when you've done something like this? Because they're describing basic First Amendment protected activities as terrorist activities, right? So do you think they're not going to start coming after people? I would say they have with January 6th, but because we had this big video of everybody scarily, breaking things and smoke bombs and people fighting and all this, that we just sat back and kind of watched it and said, well, those guys broke the law, so what do we do? But most of them that actually got arrested and most of them that were engaging in First Amendment protected activity, and there was like a couple hundred of them that maybe got violent, and everybody that was involved, even people just walking by, not even going inside, people reporting from outside, reporters, Owen Schroyer, and another guy, I forget the guy's name, just came out. He's getting indicted for being on the Capitol grounds reporting with a press pass. So they're using this to come after our First Amendment protected activities. So if you don't think that they will continue to expand that if we don't stop them while we still have the power, I think you're crazy. And I think,
what was that thing? It's like, where were you whenever they came for them, and they came for them, they came for them, and then it's like whenever they come for you, there'll be nobody left to stand for you.
I agree. I told you, Tim, I'd never broken the law.
It's paraphrasing that, but that's a quote that I like to look at it in those aspects.
Well, buddy, Aaron, I know, and if you're not on the list already, brother, then we're probably not friends. But if you are not on this list, I welcome you. Join the channel. You'll get there soon enough. Join the chat and start talking at us. But that's the thing. We want to all be on the list, man, because if the list is so big, they can't do us all, and it also is more of a threat to them. And the main thing is,
get on so many lists that they have to throw it out because they're like, well, this person's on 3,462 lists. It's like, there's got to be some sort of a indiscretion there.
There's got to be, but no, I mean, if you're not on a list and you're basically an NPC or you're an operative of the enemy class that's coming after us, so
you're on Santa Claus's list, bitch. He checks that shit twice.
Either way, you're on the list, and yeah. And then if you're on the naughty list, if you're not with us, you're on the naughty list. I'll say, if you're not with us, you're with the terrorists. But Aaron, I think you're right about that, though. I think that I started hearing things about red lists and blue lists many years ago. I mean, I don't know, probably close to 20 years ago, and I had all the qualities to qualify for the red list even back then, and that was before I started a talk show and started that was when I was just going around while I was playing bars and like handing out pocket constitutions and handing out loose change DVDs and shit like that. Now I was already on the red list then, so what are you gonna do? But
you question people to think you.
I know. Aaron says, I hope they make Alex Jones press secretary if Trump gets in there. The ultimate troll. Dude, I would love an Alex Jones press secretary. Actually, Don Jr. Said he wanted Alex to be the press secretary for at least one day. So that would be amazing. I would definitely tune in to those press conferences. Yeah, basically, if you ever bought a gun, you're on the list. Well, yeah, you fill out that 4473 and
72.
Is it 72?
4472.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 73. Either way, you fill that form out, and you're running through. They're running you by all their lists. But I think we're talking about, like I talked about earlier. They said Trump supporters, school board protesters, this kind of thing. This is what they're calling terrorists nowadays. They're calling basically anybody who is anything other than a mainstream neo-lib Republican. That's right of, because there's some of us that are right of center that are just barely right of center, and I guess they don't go too hard on those guys. But if you're not basically a full-fledged commie, you're not their friend either way, so it doesn't really matter.
Still, then you have one differing opinion on one thing, and then they don't like you anymore either.
And that's okay. And that's really, I think that's one of the reasons the right has such a hard time coalesce, because the Republicans and Democrats have always been part of this uniparty, but over, I don't know, the last 15 years, we'll say, kind of the anti-establishment have been coalescing in the Republican Party, because we feel like that, I guess it was Ron Paul that really started the idea that, okay, we're not making anything as libertarians. We've got to use the vehicle of the Republican Party to get some of this policy through, or we're just going to keep getting run over. So a lot of people have that same idea. So we do have a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but like, I'm going to be really optimistic and say we have maybe a tenth of the Congress that are good people. Maybe. I think I'm being overly optimistic, but we've got guys. We've got like
that dreamer sometime.
Yeah, we've got like 30 in the Freedom Caucus, and we've got a few Republicans that are good. I honestly can't think of any Democrats other than I am actually liking John Fetterman some here lately. For a Democrat, he's like a '90s Democrat and not a 2000s progressive. But anyway, most of the differing viewpoints that are anti-establishment have come in through the Republican Party over the last 15 years, since really Ron Paul ran in 2008 and 2012, and then you had Trump burst onto the scene. He's kind of the ultimate, whether he's really anti-establishment or not, he is representing that wing of Republicans who are tired of the old neocons. They're tired of this. So anyway, we have all these divergent viewpoints that are coming together on the Republican side, but it is so hard to get everybody together to actually do anything because you've got the old
many milquetoast ones that are just like,
yeah, you got the milquetoast and the neocons in there working together that don't actually want to upset the apple cart. And so when you know, people come along with firebrands or whatever you want to call them, the new revolutionaries that come along, well, there's not really many people willing to work with them because they have a vested interest in keeping things the way that they are. You got somebody like let's just look at somebody like Bob Corker, our old senator from Tennessee. Like, yeah, he was a Republican, but I mean, he was in the Republican Party, but he was like right down the middle, you know, giving all kinds of money away to everybody, and then every now and then he'd be like, well, I think we should lower taxes, you know, but other than that, it really didn't do much good for the nation or Tennessee, and really that's the bulk of the Republicans that we had over. I mean, and the only good Democrats I could think of, I don't think they're even Democrats anymore. Like Tulsi Gabbard, I'm not crazy about her, but she was okay. I didn't hate her. She was too much for gun control, but at least she was anti-war. Like Democrats are supposed to be anti-war, but they're not even anti-war anymore. So you got the Republicans who are, a few of them are anti-war now, so that's something. But let's see here. Scanner food has exploded. Your cousin randomly mentioned it the other day. Tim says, Lefty Goku, Kamehameha. Kamehameha. So, Janus, the god of doors, right? Because we're talking about making our way back around the sun.
Boy.
That's right. The ancient religion, and the Roman religion and mythology, Janus was the god. I keep saying Janus, but it's Janus. Was the god of gates and doors. They had a specific god who held the key to the metaphorical doors or gateways between what is and what was to come, the liminal space of transitioning out of one period of time and into something new.
Janus is a Karen that shoos you out of the door like, no.
Well, I don't know, because Janus kind of gets to go swing both ways. You know, we only get to go forward through time. Janus gets to go back, and that was why I thought maybe we'd look at a little bit of the Looking Glass stories tonight. So we'll get into that just a little bit later. But I did want to show you the this here from Anderson Locke. They are obsessed with all things relating to doors and keys, so they're going to unlock some of the myths around Janus, the Roman god of doors. Now, doesn't that sound, like something we do today when we're talking about transitioning out of one period of time and into something new? Doesn't that sound like a kind of ritual that we do every New Year where, we probably don't even really think of it as a ritual, but where we're dropping this ball, everybody's watching, we're counting down, we're ending the year, we're walking through the door from 2023 into 2024 just like we did last year, and we're having a look back into the past. We're reflecting on the year that we just finished, and we're also looking forward and deciding how we're going to proceed through the door into 2024. So Janus was known as the initiator of human life, the transformation between stages of life, and shifts from one historical area to another. And that's another, I think, that's key. Historical era into another. Because, boy, oh boy, if we're not hitting that right now, I don't know if we ever have. I think we really started that in, I think we started it right after 2001. We really shifted into another area. But then I think we had some sort of hijacking of that with, whether you like Trump or not. I don't think a lot of people say, oh, he's just part of it and he's just a full. I don't think so. I don't think he's right all the time, but I think he definitely threw some monkey wrenches into their game, and I think it definitely shifted, and it was a reflection of our will to have that shift, right? So we wanted it so bad that we were going in the wrong way so bad we're willing to vote for Donald Trump to be the president, because we're like, fuck, what else are we gonna do? Mitt Romney? Mitt Romney's gonna save us?
No.
He wouldn't even say Obama was a bad guy or something. this guy was not going to do anything. And that's what they offered us, because they wanted us to keep going in this same direction, this kind of progressive direction, as the Overton window, as it's called, shifted steadily to the to the left. And then we had a guy like Elon Musk, though, recognize this and say, hey, he was posting memes like, you know what, I used to be a liberal, but the liberals moved so far over here that now they say I'm a far right. So no, I'm not far right. You guys moved way over here. I stayed the same place I always have. And that's the way a lot of us feel too, is like somebody like Trump. Even Trump's like, his policies are that of a 90s Democrat. I mean, his policies are like Bill Clinton in the 1990s.
Half the stuff I believe, like 10, 15 years ago, I'd have been like some weird far left liberal, and now it's just like, no.
Yeah, that's a good call there.
It's kind of like it's like I'm kind of one of the people that's like, the liberals think I'm a conservative, and the conservatives think I'm a liberal.
Yep. Well, I used to have that a lot more.
You have such a blending of things. You're like, I like what they say here, and I like what they say here, and I'm like, why can't I have?
But you mentioned that, and I agree, and that was a big thing. But like, it's like now we've gone so, like I said, that Overton window shift has been so far to the left that now we really don't even have that anymore. Mm-hmm. Like conservatives, if they mostly are saying, hey, weed should just be legal, right? I mean, that's even conservatives. I mean, most of the people you will talk to will tell you that. Even old people, like people that have been against it for a really long time. There's a lot of people now, even conservatives, who will say, "Hey, I don't care if two gay people want to get married." That's not.
We're guns, gays, and grass.
Yeah. So I mean, the conservative movement has gone a lot more libertarian in a lot of ways.
A lot of ways, yeah.
So yeah, we did have that, but like you were talking about, where you get split between one camp and another. But I think it's a lot less because the guys who are thinking like us are tending to maybe trying to find a niche within the Republican Party. Because how long have we tried libertarian? Have we? I mean, look at Ross Perot. If Ross Perot couldn't do it, he couldn't even break the. All he managed to do was get Clinton elected instead of Bush reelected. I mean, that's. And then he would manage to get Clinton reelected instead of Dole winning. So, I'm glad he did it. But like, think about somebody as high profile as that, and that was still all they could garner was what, like 15% of the vote, or did he get 30%? Okay, no, it wasn't that much. I think it was like 15%. Yeah. He was enough to throw it off. What's up, Spill? I hope 2024 is better to us than 2023 was. I ain't gonna lie, I had a pretty good 2023, but I'm hoping it will be too. But
mine wasn't bad. It was kind of, there was a good chunk of it that was kind of like moot. Nothing good, nothing bad. It was just kind of
yeah. Well, it's been moving right along, and here we are.
A lot of good things happened. It was better than 2022.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're on an uphill trajectory from 2020. So.
Besides the inflation, not being able to afford shit.
It is on an uphill trajectory.
Well, yeah, you're not.
Starting in 2019, it's only getting worse. There's Aaron Armageddon. Yep. Well, let's hope that changes. I don't have a whole lot of faith in that, but you know what? I am optimistic, and because there's plenty of pessimistic people out there. So I'm going to try to put that aside and say this 2024 is going to be fucking wild, and it's going to be,
instead of being an optimist or a pessimist, they get the right cup size.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the motto for 2024, people.
Your predictions, like on the big screen, is terrible until the end when Trump wins. You say, well, let's hope so. I mean, let's hope that it at least ends with that. But I think you're right. I think if Trump does win, it will be terrible up until the point he wins in a lot of ways. Because the enemies of liberty and the enemies of the American way do not like to take losses, and when they do, they retaliate. So just keep that in mind as we go in, especially if you're seeing our side start to have some big victories. That's when a lot of times we'll take a retaliation. But back to Janus, like I said, we're looking back and forward the whole time. He was present at the beginning of the world according to Roman mythology, and he was the god of gates, so he guarded the gates of heaven and held access to heaven and other gods. And he was often invoked during ancient Roman religious ceremonies. During public sacrifices, offerings were given to him before any other deity. So that may be one of the reasons it was the first month of the year, right? Because he looks back into the forwards, and he looks backwards and forwards into the years, and he is the doorway between one age and another. He's the doorway between heaven and God, and between man and God. So that's where January gets its name from. Why does he have two faces? Well, here's a statue of Janus, the two-faced god. And here he is on a coin, which is why I thought it was apropos that we start with a coin flip. He also oversaw the initiation.
Kind of funny that we chose tails to talk about the two-headed god.
No, we chose heads.
I thought.
Remember? Sam Adams' heads was Project Looking Glass.
Okay.
But that's more apropos than it just keeps stacking up. So he oversaw the initiation of financial enterprises and humankind's transition from barbarism to civilization. A major aspect of being the creation of coins. And they say that Janus
real good back when we were barbarists.
I haven't needed to see a barbarist in years.
Me neither.
For different reasons. But because of this, his double-faced head appeared on many Roman coins, and a lot of them are still in museums, and he's also popular on jewelry. But who is he? Well, there's no Greek god that serves as his counterpart, because we had that, like we've talked about in this show a lot. When we look at a Roman or Greek god, they're almost always seems to be the same entity, right? That whether these were powerful humans with advanced technology, or whether they were spiritual beings or angels or whatever, demons or whatever you want to call them, because we could get into a whole thing about I started to drag this into the show, but I knew the show was going to be too long anyway. But we could get into the 72 angels and demons and the zodiacs, and because when I was writing this show, I wrote it with two paths, right? Doesn't that make sense? For tonight's theme. So I wanted us to be able to go either way to check out Project Looking Glass, or we could check out the Gregorian and Julian calendars and how we got there today, which we talked about a little bit, or I did, when I talked with you about Old Christmas on Christmas Eve. So if you missed that, and if you're still interested, Old Christmas is still going on till the 6th. Old Christmas is, we're in the 12 days of Christmas. So if you're interested, it's still relevant and topical. So you can go back and check that out from December 24th. It's just a 30-minute show with me. And I know you like spending time with me, But when we talked about that, I also, like the show split, so did a lot of Janus's characteristics. Well, like I said, there's no Greek counterpart for him. So some people wondered if he was a Greek or Roman god, and there is a similar character called Orthus, a two-faced dog, and he has one face looking into the past and the future, but he really didn't have a lot of significance in ancient Greece like Janus did. So, how do you protect your doorways or honor your transitions? And here's a picture of Janus with his cock. And his key. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. Tim made a bad joke about Kamehameha, so I had to too. So through the years, worship and tradition around Janus. Now, a lot of Jewish homes, for instance, today, still display a mezuzah on the door, following the commandment to write the words of God on the gates and doorposts of your home. And Christians often will display a cross above the entrance to the home, and Muslims will have rituals and greetings for entering a mosque. But even if you're non-religious, you may have something like a horseshoe over your door. You see that a lot around here in Appalachia. People will have a horseshoe, and there's differing ideas on the superstition. Should you face it down so that it pours the luck on you, or should you face it up so it doesn't spill its luck? A lot of differing ideas on that.
Fun fact, it's like even up nowhere near Jewish or overly religious anymore. It's like I actually have a mezuzah on my doorpost. It's actually like golden and actually came from over there in the Mideast.
So you're having a tribute to Janus, even though you didn't know it.
Yeah.
And but events like season changes, New Year, months, birthday, births, deaths, marriages, starting a new job, starting a podcast, talking to you guys. We're making a doorway to the past and the future, right? Because anybody in the future can watch us, and it's going to be in the past when they watch us. But you're watching us right now, and thank you so much for doing so. And
then also, the doorpost is the safest place to be in an earthquake.
Oh yeah, that's right.
If you have nothing else to get under a doorpost.
Yep, because that's the single most stable part, especially if you have an arched doorway.
Yep.
But how do you protect, or a triangle doorway would be even better, but I don't know anybody that has triangle doorways. But how do you protect or honor your doorways or traditions? Well, or now Anderson Lock, if you're in Chicago, I recommend you call Anderson Lock because
That's pretty cool.
They gave us a really good in and out kind of. Now I've got other stuff on Janus, but I thought there was the most interesting. But I did want to talk about this one too, especially when we think about this is from the conversation. Who was Janus, the Roman god of beginnings and endings? Because we want to talk about an aspect of him. He was the doorkeeper of the heavens. He was, just like we talked about, divine honors. A venerated Roman god. He was really a unique one, not brought from the Greek pavilion. But look at this. Janus is the god of the transition between war and peace. Numa, the legendary secondary king of Rome, was famed for his religious piety and is said to have founded a shrine to Janus, Geminus, get it? Geminus? Twofold, in the Roman Forum, close to the Senate House, and it was located in the place where Janus had bubbled up to a spring of hot boiling water in order to thwart an attack on Rome by Sabines. So they go on to describe the shrine, but the passage of peace to war. Now, why did I bring that up? Well, unfortunately, I got to be a Debbie Downer here, because I don't know if you remember. I'm going to let Alex Jones deliver this message, right? So I don't think anybody does it like Alex. And now that he's allowed back on Twitter, we can share it with you. And hopefully on YouTube. I've played some Alex on YouTube, but check this out real quick.
A month ago, when the globalist puppet Joe Biden came out and said, if you don't give us $106 billion for Ukraine, he told Congress, your sons and daughters within months will be fighting Russians in Ukraine. He put a gun to our head. People said, well, he's a puppet. He spoke out of turn. He doesn't mean that. Well, he came back out yesterday, and the video and statements are on Infowars.com, and said again, no, we're going to have war with Russia if we don't have unlimited funding to Ukraine. And then yesterday, a major Russian city 40 miles over the border from Ukraine, Belgrade, was hit with cluster bombs fired by vampire missile batteries. That's what they're called, vampire missile batteries that NATO provided. Now, remember just a few years ago, we can't give them long-range missiles. Ukraine will hit Russia, and that'll cause a full-scale war. So whether you think Russia's good or bad or neutral on this is escalating into full-bore war with Russia. And that's exactly what Biden and others want. So now they're having an emergency UN Security Council meeting. This is clearly a terrorist attack. The Russians are not targeting civilian infrastructure. When the Ukrainians shoot down some of their missiles, they hit civilian infrastructure. Russia, all the experts agree, is not targeting civilians. But now Ukraine is, as a desperate move to try to draw Russia in to hit civilian targets so they can be demonized, so NATO has an excuse to officially enter the war. A lot of you want war. A lot of you leftists who can't even wipe your ass or even shoot a gun or skin a buck or run a trot line love war now. You say, Sean Penn, let's have nuclear war. It's survivable. You're playing tin soldier here with all of our futures. No, we don't want a nuclear war with Russia, and that's where this is all going. And NATO and Ukraine have lost this, so now they want to double down. This is madness, and it needs to stop right now. Going into the year 2024, we all need to demand peace and demand a peace deal and stop this and shut this down, as well as demanding a ceasefire and a peace deal in the Middle East with Israel and Gaza. This is all out of control. The globalists are desperate. Their financial system's collapsing, so they want a global crisis to smokescreen what they're doing. We need peace now. We'll be covering it live at Infowars.com/show.
Very true.
Cliff and Dustin, back to you. Thanks, Alex, very much for that. We really appreciate you. But for real,
he can be our press secretary.
Yeah, I would definitely watch those press conferences. But yeah, I mean, he's right though. Biden did say, and yes, Dalton, an anus is a doorway between past and present. Thank you very much. And yes, Aaron, it's a sturdy frame.
Unless it prolapses.
Dalton says he likes to pretend the J is silent in anus. In Janus. Anus. Oh, you're a wild man. He says he's excited to see what the local rednecks have to say at the liquor store closer to election time. Going to be opinions flying. Oh, yeah. I will tell you, man. I was... they're still there. People like to say that the racists and stuff are all gone and stuff, but I will tell you, when I was out working, I did some work for the Ron Paul campaign in 2008, and while I was doing some events, I would come across people who'd say, "Well, I don't care as long as that woman or that black guy don't get elected." I heard that a lot from like old fucking people. But
I've actually
a lot of that is lessened, I guess is what I was gonna.
It's like the weird thing is I have known some through other people that are people of their family were actually like card carrying KKK members, and they were Democrats.
Yeah.
And they voted for Obama still. Yep. They said that they're Democrats before they're racists.
Yep. Well, that tells you a lot right there, right? That tells you a lot because the Republicans can't even get people to go out like for anything. Like, I say it on X all the time. If you're watching from X, the Republicans are professional losers for the most part. I mean, that's their job, is to be the Washington Generals to the Democrats' fucking Harlem Globetrotters. Yeah, you think, oh, well, maybe they're gonna pull something. No. They're there to lose. They're there to keep you thinking that you have a say. That's why it's so important that we actually run for office within this party, and because that's the only vehicle we have to make any change for it. Yeah. Did I see that video, Aaron, of none of the leaders shaking Biden's hand? It was straight up intentional. I don't know the one you're talking about, but I've seen people not shaking his hand. I also saw where he went to China. Right? They tried this on Trump too. Trump went to China. And they had people come out from G and meet him and said, we're not going to be able to meet you. We're going to have you wait. And Trump was like, no. We're getting back on the plane, everyone. We're leaving. Turn around. We're not bullshitting around here. We're not waiting on China. China can wait on us. And he left. Well, Biden goes and stays the night and is like, I guess they're just, take a little while. Like that's meant to slot the leader, right? To keep him waiting. When you call somebody like the United States is, effectively the most powerful nation in the world, and you invite their leader over to a summit with you and then make him wait. Like that's deliberately sliding the man. And Trump recognized it and left, and Biden didn't, just like Trump. When they were sending over scientists to during COVID, they fucking swabbed their anuses for COVID. And Trump was like, no, we're not sending any more people over to have their anuses swabbed. But Biden went back to the anal swabs. But to me, that's just that is totally to humiliate our scientists. It's not to to do anything other than that.
So basically that's like what the original thing of sodomizing your enemy was. It was the most vast amount of humiliation.
Why do we keep coming back to anuses here? But we do. What is going on? It's that doorway between past and present.
Because it's the butt of the joke.
Yes, and we've talked about before what Crowley said. Remember? I'm not going to say it again because this is
third
YouTube.
Eye.
Yeah, that's right. That's where you.
Think eye.
Yeah, that's where the third eye is, and we'll say that. Crowley allegedly claimed that was the gateway to immortality, was that particular orifice of an underage individual, I guess we'll say. How come being president is one of the only jobs where you can do everything wrong and not get fired? Yeah, well, it's a good question, Dalton. Let's see. Let's get back to Janus real quick because I do want to talk a little bit about Project Blue Book. Then we have to talk about Tennessee Falling Stars. And if anybody sees Steph and Lee, I've not seen them in the chat, but Steph and Lee, if you're not out there, you need to get in the chat for this one because I did this topic just for you. I think you're going to enjoy it, and y'all will probably even go and see it, and I hope you do. I
mean, remember that last week or whatever they were visiting family up in Kentucky?
Yeah.
They might still, because we're stuff got delayed, they might still be.
They're back because they uploaded last couple of days. So they uploaded 2 videos yesterday.
Could be.
So I think they're back. So I hope they're tuning in, and maybe they'll check us up on the replay if they're not with us tonight. But I hope you'll enjoy this one because I did this one. I found this one just for you. I thought it was really neat. But that's to come tonight. We're gonna say the gates of Janus are said to have stayed closed. Whoops there. There we go. Okay, here we go. Romans believe that the year of January was added to the calendar by Numa. The association of Janus in the calendar was cemented by the construction of 12 altars, one for each month of the year, in Janus's temple for the Forum Holatorium, which is a vegetable market. Sounds a lot fancier than a vegetable market, doesn't it? Forum Holatorium. Forum Holatorium.
They start calling the farmers market that.
The Forum Holatorium. The poet Marshall thus described Janus as the progenitor and father of years. And this is all we're going to do on Janus. I'm sorry to keep you on it for so long, but I think this is interesting. From 153 BC onwards, the consuls, the chief magistrates of the Republic, took office on the first day of January, which the Romans called the Colons. The new consuls offered prayer to Janus, and priests dedicated special mixed with salt, or spelt mixed with salt, in a traditional barley cake known as an Ionual, which I imagine is where we get the word annual. You know, it's all back to Latin. The Romans distributed New Year's gifts of dates, figs, and honey to their friends in hopes that the year ahead would turn out to be sweet, as well as coins, a sign of hoped-for prosperity. So Janus assumed a key role in all public sacrifices, keeping incense and wine before other deities. So he was the doorkeeper of the heaven, and he was the route through which one reached the other gods, even Jupiter himself, which is Jehovah. Jehovah, same guy.
Random fact, I actually learned why the little honey spoon does what it does. Because it's like you're talking
about the thing that you dip in like a honey in that Cheerios commercial?
Into the honey, yeah. You dip it into the honey, and then as soon as you pull out, as long as you keep spinning it back and forth, the honey will never drip. I was just like,
why does it work?
I don't know.
I thought you were going to...
Yeah, as soon as because when you spin it, it keeps the honey in like emulsion. It keeps it moving, and it will never start dripping down. And then as soon as you stop, it'll start dripping. So it's like you can dip it in there and just keep spinning it and like carry it around the room until you get to what you're needing.
And I'll show you this.
And also, they always were traditionally made of wood because metals can kill the microbiome of the honey, so it can actually kill a lot of the nutrients that the honey, micronutrients the honey.
Yeah, and that's why steel or brass and silver were used a lot of times for
steel, like iron and steel,
antimicrobial properties. So here's my coin for the night, guys. I posted this on X. Is this Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker guy? I think it's supposed to be the lady on the Challenger that got blown up. But it looks like Richard Ramirez.
When he first pulled it up, I was like, is that like one of the Baggins?
Yeah, it looks like it looks like she's even got a pentagram on her chest and stuff. So I was like, is this Richard Ramirez? It reminded me of Joe Dirt, where he's trying to draw sketch artists or trying to copy his description of the criminal. He ends up looking like his parents, and then one of them ends up looking like Richard Ramirez, and the other ends up looking like Father Time, because I think he's on some kind of, I don't know if he huffed glue or what the hell it was, or no, he went in like a I think he went in a house that was being fumigated or something. And
when he first pulled it up, I was like, is that Bilbo Baggins?
Yeah, I could see that too.
Well,
yeah, it kind of does look like Bilbo.
I was about to say, if you pulled you need to actually Samwise, because he was the one that basically got Frodo to there. They were the saviors.
I mean, you're right, because Frodo he really didn't want to give up the ring. Samwise actually did give up the ring, and he
Samwise
made
carried
sure
his ass all the way
Yeah,
up.
he made sure that Frodo gave it up. We were talking about the Lord of the Rings earlier. That was a tradition for my family, and me and my wife were talking about going to the movies, and like there was just nothing we even care to see, and it hasn't been for quite a long time, except for Godzilla -1.
I was like, I missed getting to see Godzilla, and it makes me sad.
Godzilla -1 is still at Carmack 14.
Oh, it is?
Yes, because we were talking about maybe going to see it tomorrow.
Dang it.
But it is still there. But
even though they're getting ready to release a straight up black and white version of it, and I'm kind of interested in that
Really?
too. Yeah, I don't know if it'll come over, if they'll rescreen it over here, but Japan's releasing a black and white variant. I almost feel it would be almost scarier in black and white.
yeah, I don't know. And when I was a kid, I really I didn't appreciate black and white films. But now, like,
I guess the same, but it's like I have like I don't know. It's like the more I grow in photography, I'm like I love black and white.
yeah, it wasn't that I
Cinematography.
couldn't watch a black and white film, but it was like, man, this sucks. I wish it was color. And now, I was like, even though I would still enjoy the film, I mean, like,
Yeah.
in the old monster movies, those were my favorites when I was a kid, particularly Godzilla. Godzilla is my favorite. I don't know how many different Godzilla monsters we had all over the house. And we'd watch Roseanne, and they had a Godzilla that sat on the couch behind me. We were like, oh, look, it's Godzilla. But
Godzilla is one of my favorite things.
Godzilla. Yeah, there was not much in the movies, but so Project Looking Glass. Dustin, you ever heard of Project Looking Glass?
Yes.
Can you give us a basic rundown of what you have heard about it?
Kinda in a very, very nutshell, isn't it kind of like a actual like looking thing that can actually see through times,
That's the idea.
time, space, different dimensional kind of rifts.
And in some ways, they even say that there are people who have and I think they called it. Oh gosh, what is his name? Damn it! I listened to him on Quite Frankly. Robert Seffer, maybe. He was talking. Oh, damn it, I can't think of it now. If you go back and watch, if you search for Quite Frankly on Project Looking Glass, you'll find it for sure. But this guy, he claims to have gone back in time and actually affected the past by like giving a document to George Washington or something, and he actually even like shows himself in a painting that he was painted in with George Washington. He said this was him traveling back in time. That was one of the things that what do you got there?
We
That was one of the things I heard.
we got a lot.
Okay, well, I'll catch up at the chat, and then we'll talk about Project Looking Glass, because we're getting at 11:20
Even though I
right
feel
now.
like the whole thing with time travel, since time is not a linear thing, it's like, you go back and it's like, yeah, if you alter time, you make a different timeline. The timeline that you came from, that you went back in the past for, still is unaltered. You made a new timeline.
Yeah. And that's what I wonder too. Like Back to the
That's kind of the
Future,
one.
is that realistic? Because you've changed so many things. How could the same? Okay, how could
It's
everything
like-
be normal except for Marty's not there?
It's like either no matter what you do, like time travel, it's like, okay, if you went to the past and changed things to change the future, either the future still happens, it all falls the same way, or you split, you diverge time and you make a different timeline. The timeline you came from is still unaffected because it's the timeline that you chose to go
Right.
back to. So to that point, nothing's different because you didn't do that.
Yeah.
And the timeline you changed splits.
Not only that, in the timeline that you changed, you exist as you were before you came back. So there's two of you in that timeline now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the Back to the Future theory holds up.
No.
It's great movies, but the idea of linear time that is on one cycle that you can go back and change, I don't think is right. Aaron says he did not know that. Wild. I'm not sure what he's talking about, but he says he also says he had a tattoo. Spill says she has a tattoo of Cliff Burton, but it looks like the lead singer from Korn. And then Aaron says, I have a tattoo of Edgar Allan Poe that looks like Bill Murray. You gotta watch those portraits. That's right. Have you ever seen one of those that like the guy took the picture, had a tattoo of like his son holding his thumb or something?
Yeah.
It does not look like a thumb. Yeah, you got to watch, man. I've had some tattoos not turn out exactly the way I have wanted, but I haven't had any that I couldn't live with. And now I actually like that I have shitty tattoos, because everybody that has tattoos, all their tattoos look so good. And I got mine from that I traded a fucking oxy for a tattoo. And it was done in somebody's apartment, and it was done with clean needles and ink. But you know, it was like, I got some tattoos the old school way, and I respect prison tattoos and project apartment tattoos and stuff like that. And anybody can go into the tattoo parlor and get yourself a tattoo now. But back in the day, it wasn't for everybody, and that was one of the reasons that I even wanted to get a tattoo. Is just because it was something that was seen as, I guess, I had an idea of myself that I wanted to convey through art on my body, and now it's almost just like I don't know. I haven't had tattoos in years just because they've become so popular. I'm like, no, I wish I didn't even have any tattoos now, but not really. But yeah, it's just.
I still like all of mine, which all of mine I've had done professionally, because I'm like, I want.
Most of mine I've had done professionally, but even like this one didn't even turn out the way I wanted it to. But I had them do a line like a panther, and then I had a junkie do the dragon and the fire, and you know what? It's cool, man. And then I've got now all the rest of mine are professional, but the funny thing is the junkie did a really good job until I gave him the oxy, and then he did terrible. Yeah, go figure.
It's going really good. Then you're like, all of a sudden it turned to shit. You're like, well,
yep. It's like, man, I should have just given him the money and let him go get the oxy himself, because I had to actually go get it to trade it for the tattoo. So I should have just given him the money. But either way, Spill got one from a guitar string rigged from a shaver from her ex. Wow. Now see, that's what I'm talking about. That is fucking outlaw tattoos right there. That's what we want. I want that energy going into 2024, Spill. But yeah, that's the way you do it.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a bougie bitch. It's like I like my art to be like very, I guess, not
clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you look at my photography, everything's stupidly sharp, stupidly clean, but yet it's still not like a nice stylized. It's weird. It's like I can make a picture look vintage and modern at the same time.
Oh, I like that.
Because it's like, I like the coloring, the color grading and stuff of like some older, like the weird warm kind of pink tones. But yet it's like so sharp that, yeah, you can see things sometimes you don't want to see on yourself.
Some of the best tattoos you've ever seen were in federal prisons. I believe that, Aaron. Shoot, I didn't see. Now I did some, not much, but I did a little bit of time in jail about, what was it, over 20 years ago now, and there were guys tattooing in there, and I was like, no sir, like you can get me with it. Okay, it's not so much that I that getting a tattoo from a junkie is a good idea, but he did at least have clean needles, and like he opened the needles in front of me, and opened the ink,
clean reservoir. Yeah, like you actually see like new cups and the new
and he made a point to open it all in front of me, so I could see that it was not used. But these guys in the jail cell were just like grabbing a pen,
big pens, and
mixing it with some shaving cream and tattooing on each other and screaming. Dalton says you have no tattoos, not just against one, not against getting one, but I never had anything that wanted to paint on his body like that. I get that, and I think you guys are, you guys that don't have them are kind of unique now, because most, I don't know, I'm just going to say most people I know over the age of 18 have a tattoo. Not like 90%, but I'm gonna say over 50%. I wish I didn't get any like Cliff, because everyone else has them. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I was saying. The whole idea was I wanted to set myself apart when I started getting these things. Is I still feel like I'm different from everybody else, and that's kind of been my whole life is feeling different. So I kind of do things to to try to set myself apart, at least in my own mind, even when I go back to when I was a child, like everybody liked the fucking Chicago Bulls. So I was like, no, I hate Michael Jordan. I like the Atlanta Hawks. I want Dominic Wilkins to win. Like, Dominic Wilkins sucked, but by God, I'm different from everybody else. So, it's like, are you really different, or do you just, are you just, pointing, have different personalities?
That angst.
Yeah, exactly.
Different.
Exactly. I don't know, but I've always felt different. I think probably everybody in this chat, everybody this viewer of this channel probably has always felt different from everybody, and I feel like you have probably too. And I don't think we're wrong. I think that 99% of the people around us are fucking brain dead morons. I'm sorry, but I think they are. I don't think most people around us really think anything beyond what they're going to have for their next meal, or what they're maybe they think about what they're going to do ahead with their family and their life and things like this. But as far as the bigger picture about the world that we live in, about our place in it, about the big things that really matter, that the important people of the world are thinking about and making actions based upon, most of us never consider it. And I've always felt separated from people who don't think about things like that.
Totally random, but because of everyone knows my uniqueness, all the random ass puns and like dad jokes I just throw off. I can't exactly remember what it was now, because it's like it was while I was sleeping, but I had a dream and I slapped a badass pun in the dream. And it was like I woke up laughing about it, and then it's like now I can't remember it. I remembered the basis of what was leading up to.
You know who has the best dream puns? Freddy Krueger. If you can
welcome to prime time.
If you can out dream pun Freddy Krueger, then you have my congratulations.
I could fairy loot Freddy Krueger in a dream with some puns.
That would be good. What was your first Freddy Krueger movie?
I'll say the first one that I actually watched start to finish was 3. It was Dream Warriors.
Mine, I think Dream Warriors, was that 3? No, yeah. 5 was the Dream Child. Okay, I was thinking it was 5. Yeah, I think my first one was definitely Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare, which is one of the funnier ones.
Yeah.
And I don't think I have watched it. I first watched it in 2nd grade. I stayed the night with a friend of mine, and we watched Freddy's Dead. And that was.
It's weird because it was like, I guess because Mom knew when I was a kid, I'm like really imaginative, really in my head with everything. That was like the one thing that she would never let me watch whenever I was little. It's like I've watched all kinds of things that you're like, yeah, a kid that age, you probably shouldn't have watched that.
Yeah.
But it's like I've watched everything. It's like I've seen Jason like clap and smack every naked titty sleeping bag, everything. It's like I saw all
naked
that.
bitches in the trees.
Yeah, I've seen all that. It's like I've seen, I saw the Hellraisers when I was way too young. It's like, Escape from LA, Escape from New York, Aliens. It's like I was obsessed with Aliens whenever I was real little. Mm-hmm. It's like, I watched all that stuff, but they wouldn't let me watch that.
Yeah. Well, that one...
I think because it was too psychological stuff, they wouldn't let me watch it when I was real little.
Yeah, I understand that. I told you all on the channel.
Horror and monsters, Pumpkinhead. It's like I remember seeing, even though that one was kind of borderline because it was kind of, yeah.
And you would think Pumpkinhead would have a pumpkin on his head. Like, yeah. Anyway, but I told you all on the channel the other day about my dream. I know you were here, Spill and Aaron. That the shoot, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but okay. So I had a dream, and I'd had a almost like a. You ever have a waking dream where you're laying in bed and you're awake, but you don't have to be in bed, but where you're kind of having a dream in your head while you're awake and you're imagining a scenario, and maybe you kind of like get lost in a little bit, like daydreaming, but like times 100.
I do that probably a lot. I should.
Yeah, me too. Almost fell into like a sleep paralysis, right? And I had this kind of contemplation on the nature of evil and the nature of man and why man does what he does and why he's driven to do evil. And I came kind of to the determination in this, and I had in this dream, in this vision, it was like an Agent Smith kind of deal. The evil, it would be vanquished from one vessel, but it would pop up into another vessel, and it always returned. And then in the end of my vision, it popped up within me. And so I had this idea, like, well, is this... It was a horrifying at the time I was doing it. Like I said, it was kind of like a sleep paralysis kind of thing. And it's like almost like I can never fully vanquish the evil from myself. And I had this idea that I feel like I need to help to vanquish evil from this world. But yet still, I have anytime you do get rid of an evil, it's going to pop somewhere else. It's part of human nature. It's like all the things that we need to do to survive, like to eat, fuck, drink, all the things that we have to do in order to keep ourselves alive as human beings. If we overindulge in them, they can become sinful and even evil. And so it's like that's part of our nature. And our other part of our nature is to recognize the balance between, okay, yes, we need to eat to live, but do we really need to eat, a fucking chicken and dumplings buffet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and get 600 pounds? No, we don't. We got to find the balance between that. Mm-hmm. And then there's also the balance between, you got these old, like cathartic sects that would wear sackcloth and eat mud and, not enjoy anything physically, because carnal pleasure is what leads to our downfall ultimately. And if we eat a roasted chicken with salt and garlic and pepper, that tastes good. That's a carnal pleasure. And if we overindulge in that, then we do lead to our downfall. But anyway, so I had this dream, this vision with the evil of man, and how part of our nature is susceptible to engage in evil just by overdoing the things that we need to do to stay alive. Like you have to protect yourself from predators. Well, okay, how do you protect yourself from predators? You kill them. It's okay. Well, you can overdo it, and you can murder people that are not a threat to you, and then at that point, you are, so you're evil. You're sinning. Mm. Okay, so then I had this dream that was like a counterpart to this vision I had.
Were you listening to the Evil That Men Do from Iron Maiden?
I was not at this time. I had the dream. This was Wednesday night before I did the show, the night before the show Thursday, and I don't remember anything about the dream other than I was talking to a boy, and it was Michael Myers from. I don't know if it was actually Michael Myers, but it was the boy who played Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's Halloween reboot when he was young. And I was talking to him, and all of a sudden, he has I see these sparks and explosions and lights, like yellow and orange and kind of like pinkish lights behind his face. And all of a sudden, he just looks at me and goes, "I'm Jesus," and then just flies away. And I had this realization in my dream. I screamed with horror and with bliss at the same time, because I had this understanding of the dream that I don't have now. But this dream made something clear to me about the nature of good and evil and where my place is within. I don't understand what it is, but I'm gonna figure it out. But the whole idea of just within me, and there's always that darkness that is, one, it's your survival instinct, but for two, when you have something of a, I don't want to say I'm cunning exactly, but I have a certain gift for understanding people and their motivations. I'm good at making deals with people. I'm good at negotiating. I'm good at. I have a certain set of talents that I could use for ill, and I don't most of the time. But it's within me is that ability to do evil just by following my human nature, but then also the ability within anything evil to, like Michael Myers could be Jesus. Okay, I know that sounds stupid, but even within the darkest thing you can imagine, there's the potential for light. So how do you destroy light dark when there's light within it? So anyway, I'm still going to be pondering on this dream, and I'm not even sure why I brought it up, but that nature of of the good and light within Dream, I guess is why we were talking about Freddy Krueger, and that part of us that.
That's why we're a very dualistic creature.
Yeah, and I really feel like that was why I was reflecting on Janus, because yes, you can dwell on the past like Janus. You can look back into the past, or you can look forward into the future, and I feel like if we're taking it like my dream said, from like Jesus from a Christian perspective. Like, we shouldn't be dwelling on the past in regret, but we should be learning from the past in order to not knock the ammunition off the speaker there.
Cabinet.
I feel like we should be rather than be regretting and mourning the past, we should be learning the past in order to improve the future. And I feel like something around there is kind of what my dream was trying to tell me. And I think it was maybe reflective of the year that we're closing and the year that we're coming into. So be careful going to sleep with crystals in your hand. The guy teaches astral projection. He has a technique on IR. Interesting spiel. Thank you. I do not generally go to sleep with them in my hand. I do have some calcite crystals that I like to carry around with me. I don't know if they actually do anything. I just think they're neat, and they're supposed to, I've got calcite and hematite. And hematite's supposed to be an absorber of negative energies, and basically, your root chakra can ground through the hematite, and then your head chakra can channel through the calcite is the idea. I don't know if there's anything to it. I just like the rocks, and I like the idea of it, whether the rocks themselves have anything to do with it.
I mean, if you look into like sort of like how that string theory, how everything has like the vibrational patterns, it's like those elements have that certain vibrational pattern that can block those negative things from happening to you as easily. So I mean, even if you look at it at an objective standpoint like that, you're like, it can still make sense. Yep. Which I do the same thing.
Well, listen, I'm not a one of these crystal chicks, and I'm not an astrology chick, but we see bastardized versions of crystal and astrology, commercialized for one, but like being a trend rather than something actual to seek for enlightenment. And if you look at all these, everybody talks about, well, if a chick's into astrology, it's a red flag or whatever. But most of these chicks that are into astrology, that just want to know what sign you are, they're not really into astrology. They're just trying to be trendy. Like, somebody who's really into astrology will actually study all of the planets, all of the stars, all of the heavenly bodies, and how their relation and what their relationship was to a particular event at a particular time. And it's way more in depth. And I think maybe that there may be something to it when you study it like that. And the same thing with kind of crystals and stuff. I don't know a lot about crystals and their properties, but none of it is real matter. It's all energy vibrating at a certain speed, and vibrating at a certain speed causes it to be crystal. So I don't want to discount anything.
With some of the people who want to go into like the Thane, like astrology and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, they're like, oh, the love and light all the time. It's like, no, you can't have that all the time. You have to have the darkness to do that. You have to do that work on the dark side of yourself.
That's right.
To make yourself better. So if you're like, no negative vibes, love and light all the time, no, you're bullshit.
Let's get some chats caught up before we go, and we're going to catch up on, because we're getting close to midnight, so I want to do a little bit of a Project Looking Glass before...
If we wait long enough, we can start one of those, we can start one of the songs, and whenever midnight hits,
Well, I got to go kiss B. I know she won't come and kiss me on camera, so... But let's see. Spills, you got lots of rocks, and some more powerful than others. Yes, we have lots of rocks in our house, and yes, some of them I feel like there's something flowing through them, especially like, what do you call it, magnetite, or, shit. No, I can't think of it. Magnetic rocks.
Magnetite is magnetic. That is a rock that's been magnetized.
I don't know, that didn't feel like it was the right name for it, but yeah, some feel more powerful than others. But the calcites, the amethysts, those kind of things, thunder eggs, those are really cool, and all these geodes and stuff. That
I always said, it's like, I know a good deal with them because I kind of floating that middle ground of it, and I'm like, I can't think of any of the things right now.
Dalton, overwhelmed by the state of humanity. That's a good way to put it. Most people don't seem to know what to say when you go deep, unlike things they can relate to in personal. Yeah, you can talk to anybody about the weather, but it's hard to really talk to about, who can you really talk to about the nature of good and evil, and about how, who can you admit to that you have the temptation to do evil, but you have to actually, choose not to do it. And, a lot of people act like they don't ever want to do anything wrong, or a lot of people act like they don't care, but I think we all have a struggle within us all the time, and
it's almost like the
yin and yang. That's right, Dalton.
Yeah, it's called the void moment. It's like your brain checks yourself like, hey, you should jump off this cliff right now, and then you're like, why do I think that?
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like a safety check your brain does on your body. It's like, okay, your survival instinct's still intact, because you didn't do it.
Did you ever, when you first started carrying a pistol, did you have odd thoughts about, not that you would actually do anything, but just like things that would occur to you, like, oh, I have this. What if I did this to myself? Or what if I did this to, you know what I'm saying? Like, not actually like, not that you would consider doing it, but suddenly you have the power to do this. And then so the thought comes into your head, well, I haven't had those thoughts in years, but whenever I first started carrying one, I was like, So it was.
Mine was always just the thing. It's like, what if I sit down wrong and blow my ass cheek off?
Yeah, that's
It's like, even though I've got like proper holsters and stuff, it was still always like, what if something happens and it malfunctions and it goes off and blows my ass cheek off here in the middle of Walmart?
Well, it's just like. I don't mean necessarily but you think about all the things that you could do with a tool within that's within your power, and you have to make an effort to do the right thing, and that was an extreme example, obviously, with when you're carrying a pistol. I mean, you're taking on the responsibility to do the right thing with it, and
great power comes great responsibility.
That's right. That's right, but in order to recognize that power and responsibility, I think you have to look at the other side of it. Which
you have to look at, you're like, yeah, this power can be very destructive.
It's like, do I have it within me to stop myself from doing something destructive? Like if somebody were to anger me right now, am I in control of myself enough to not use the destructive power that I have to negatively affect society without a benefit to myself, or without protecting myself? Mm-hmm. Another night at Walmart, Dalton says, yeah, you're right, clean up on all three. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Oh, yes, that'd be a messy one, all right.
It'll be like the guy that in the older video of like, this is why you always know where this thing is. Whenever he's trying to do like the test draw, like the draw shooting from the stuff with his 1911, he's getting ready to reholster and he shoots himself and he's like, I fucking shot myself.
Oh yeah.
He shot himself with the 1911 right in the thigh. Yep. Reholstering.
I always love when people shoot themselves. I just love their reaction, because it's almost always like, oh dang, I just shot myself. Oh fuck, I shot myself. I don't know. It just cracks me up.
Well, it's because in like non-lethal areas, it's like, because it happens so quick and it normally like the bullet just passes through and cauterizes, and it's like, where it's so hot, you're like, really? I just did that? Because it's like it singes the nerves right off. So that first few seconds, you're like, it's like you feel nothing. You're like, damn it, now I got to get through this because I shot myself.
There was an episode of King of the Hill. Where Peggy has a gun store in her bookstore, and she has a gun range downstairs, and the guy comes upstairs and is like, you got any rags? I just shot my dang hand. Okay, that's just like a guy who just shot his hand. That's exactly how they act.
It's like,
dang it, just shot my dang hand. But Project Looking Glass, I will tell you, if we don't really have much time to go into it, because I do want to get into the Falling Stars of Tennessee and Decker Farm Airport. But Project Looking Glass was an alleged program developed by upper levels within our government that was developed based, I think, on alien technology in some form or fashion, that allowed one to look into the past or future, and maybe even in some cases the stories were travel to the future. But ultimately the main reason that it was used, and if you got into the Q drops, a couple of years ago, or when was it, 2017, 18, they also talked about Looking Glass. And so that was actually where I found out about it. And if you think about it from the perspective of Q, if Q were something that was legit, and if Project Looking Glass is something that was legit, the two would kind of go hand in hand, because the whole idea of Q was we're going to show you. We're going to tell you what is happening. We're the good guys. We're going to tell you what's happening. We're going to give you keys so you can see that what is happening is adding up to what we say is going to happen to the eventual end, which is the good guys win. So they would actually say, look, we've used Looking Glass basically to game this all out. And the idea was that Looking Glass couldn't show you exactly what was going to happen, but what it could show you was a number of possibilities that you could use to determine your moves going forward, almost like probability and statistics or quantum mechanics. I mean, we look at that's the way the real world works. I mean, there's a reason prob and stats and that's just the economic application for the most part of quantum mechanics. But the reality of the universe is there is a certain probability. Like if I throw a baseball right from here and I throw that baseball at Dustin's head, like there is actually a possibility that baseball will dematerialize. I mean, we're talking like a negative, 1 trillion billion trillion, exponent that this will actually happen. But it is not outside of the realm of possibility that baseball will dematerialize right here and then materialize on the other side of Dustin's head. And the fact of the matter is, because every single molecule in motion, every single piece of matter has a certain probability of where it end up. It could end up over here, it could end up over here. Now the average, they all end up together, so they go straight, and that baseball is going to hit Dustin. But if something,
maybe my head dematerializes in a defensive situation, and it goes through, then it materializes.
Or maybe you just change into like a baseball glove and catch it, and then
my head just turns into a glove.
Yeah. I mean, it's all possible. You ever see or read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the infinite improbability drive?
Yes.
Where that's kind of the whole basis of it is in order to travel somewhere that we ought not be able to go because we're halfway across the galaxy, we have a drive that will actually generate random events until we achieve the one that we want, because it'll achieve an infinite number of random events until we lock in on the one that we want to take us where we want to go. And that's really the nature of the universe. I mean, as far as we can tell, and that's why when everybody says Einstein, they talk about one of Einstein's most famous quote now is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And people use that to prove to you that you are insane by trying the same thing over and over again. But they're actually wrong, because Einstein was wrong, and his whole point was that doing the same thing over and over again is not going to get you a different result. But actually, quantum mechanics shows that it does. On the micro scale, it does give you a different result. And so therefore,
there is hope for my dating life.
But yeah, the idea is that no matter how unlikely things are, they can happen, and there's a certain probability that a certain outcome will occur. And Project Looking Glass was to take these different outcomes and to find out which outcome was the most probable, and how to influence the future in order to have a more desirable outcome become the most probable. And there's also been stories of people going to the past. Like, who knows? I don't call anything crazy, really. I mean, except flat Earth. Sorry. Just sorry. Just you guys have a basic misunderstanding. I'm sorry, that's neither here nor there. You guys kill me with the flat Earth. You don't know anything.
Pretend to chime back in with something just to...
I can buy Tim's Hollow Earth a lot more than the Flat Earth, because the Flat Earth people are like, well, how come there's ice on the poles if it's summertime and the south is fake? Because the direct... Never mind. Anyway, I love you guys, Flat Earthers. I really do, because you guys are at least recognizing that
They're at least
something is being wrong. And
but,
yes, exactly.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
No, I love you guys, but you didn't pay attention in basic science, and if you did, you would understand why a lot of the arguments that you make for Flat Earth don't actually pan out.
Velcro Earth.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can stay on it.
Donut Earth.
Donut Earth.
Taurus Earth. The Earth's a square, says Dalton. Yeah, I saw it, and another thing I saw was like people showing proof. NASA thinks the Earth is flat. NASA knows the Earth is flat, and you read it, and they even highlight a section that says, you know, these are all based on linear equations on a flat Earth with no motion. And then the very next paragraph, it says that these have been simplified from actual 3D physical equations, because this way we don't have to do so much math.
In layman's terms, this is kind of what you're doing.
You're getting usable results out of these numbers without adding all this complication of 3D space to it. And people are like, oh, that means that the Earth is flat because NASA says it is. No, they didn't say it was flat. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get on that tangent. I love you guys, I really do. Dalton, you cut the tips off your middle finger shaving wood 3 years ago? And Dustin's right, I didn't feel much pain for a while. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah,
I can remember. I was sharpening a knife the other day, and I was wiping my blade down with my rag, and I went whoop, right through my blade, right through my rag, and then right through my thumb. And
when I got the fixed blade,
shit! I guess I cut myself. I guess I'm done sharpening now.
Yeah. The fixed blade knife that I have, it's like it is. I have a lot of like blades that are like, you know, when people say, "Oh, I got a sharp knife," it's like no. It's like I have some pretty sharp blades, and this thing was just like as soon as I pulled it out of the thing, it's like I pulled it out of the little Kydex scabbard it came in, and I'm already bleeding. I'm like,
yep.
I'm like, okay, and I don't even like, where is it coming from? Then I'm like, oh, okay.
I actually did the same thing. I had my brother, he gifted me a knife, and it was a like a Japanese kitchen knife, and it had a hole in the blade, and for some reason I got the wild idea while I was cutting stuff, I was just going to start spinning that knife around, and it's a big old kitchen knife by the hole in the blade, and I was cutting up meat, and next thing I know, I've got like little cuts all over my fingers, like where it's just nicked me and I didn't even feel it. Oh, there ain't no curvature. I looked at the ocean once with an old pair of binoculars. You didn't pay any attention in science class, but you still don't believe in flat Earth. Just spill. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Most of the guys who I hear tell me about it, and Eddie Bravo is the best example I can think of, just has a total misunderstanding of what science was actually telling him. So I can understand if you didn't pay enough attention to astronomy, or maybe you just had basic geoscience, you know, why that this doesn't make sense to you. And I understand why you would think that. But anyway, I really don't hate you guys. I love you. I appreciate that. I appreciate your questioning. I appreciate your seeking the truth. So I love you guys a lot. And it's 11:53. So I want to hit up this real quick.
The tenacity of actually sticking to guns.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's the last thing I want to tell you about? I want to tell you about Tennessee Falling Stars. This one's for you, Stephen Lee. Oh, we got that big old book out here. I had it opened up to where I needed it, but let's see, 332.
Okay, from my blind ass looking at this sideways on the screen, the skydiving person kind of looked like a chimpanzee kind of flying through the air.
Well, today we're going to talk about Decker Farm Airport and the Tennessee Falling Stars. That's right, the Falling Stars of Decker Farm Airport in Tennessee. In 1872, downriver, less than 1 mile from Taylor Bridge along the Nolechucky River, Charles Frederick Decker Sr., his second wife Sophia Hinch, and his children unhitched their one-horse wagon. Now, this is from a history of Washington County, Tennessee, compiled and edited by Joyce and W. Eugene Cox from the Watauga County Historical Association, or Washington County Historical Association, Inc. And this is, I think, the 1988 edition of this. Let me double check here. I think that's right. We're just going to go with that. We're going to go with that. But anyway, Charles Frederick Decker and his wife and kids, they took all their long wagon track down from Pennsylvania down the Shenandoah Valley to Tennessee. Stephen Lee, Pennsylvania. They had left Philadelphia in hope of finding a better place with just the right clay to continue his pottery making trade, and he learned that skill in his German homeland. And he found exactly what he needed in the Nolichucky Valley, and they settled on 100 acres of prime river bottom land and went to work. And they made a very successful producer of Keystone pottery. Now, we fast forward from 1872 to 1960. 5 decades after the death of Charles Frederick Decker, and his grandson, William C. Decker, also known as Bill, was not interested in making pottery, but he was interested in flying an airplane. He had obtained a private pilot's license, and he bought an airplane and made a landing strip part of his river bottom farmland down there along 107 in Nolichucky. So Bill Decker's airplane, of course, became an immediate attraction because not everybody had an airplane. Obviously, in 1960, they were pretty rare for private ownership. He was, and it's funny when I was taking the pictures of this book. You're not going to guess what I did. I was taking pictures of them to scan them into the thing, and I tried to swipe across my phone to turn the page so I could take a picture of the next page.
You're like, wow, aren't you changing?
So his neighbors were curious, and his customers also, he had a country store down there, and they were always surprised by him having an airplane. Whoa, you got an airplane, Bill? He built a hangar across the road from his store and made a homemade runway. He had a 4-acre field running parallel with the Nolichucky and State Route 107, headed right down your way there, Stephen Lee. And down from in local terms, now this is very Washington County, in local terms, the airfield was located down from the crossroad beside the river between the tobacco patch and the cornfield. So, that's pretty good directions if you live in the Nolichucky. Yeah. Well, word spread quickly, and soon there was another hangar, another pilot, another plane, and then they had a windsock. So they were a full-fledged airport. You got that windsock, everybody knows you're an airport. You got a hangar building, they're like, is that a warehouse? You got a windsock, they're like, airport. So in the mid-1960s, there was not really, parachuting was not really a thing. It was even more novel than the airplane itself. It was 11:58. I'm gonna have to go get my kiss here in just a minute, guys. But anyway, leaping from the airplane was still unthinkable.
There's your visual representation.
The idea of leaping from an airplane was still, unthinkable to most people. But there were some people who he convinced to jump out of an airplane. So they had a small group of mid-century marvels who undertook the task of teaching themselves to pack parachutes, strap themselves in, and leap from an airplane 2,500 feet above the ground and land safely. And these people called themselves the Leaping Lizards. And there's you,
not to be confused with the lot lizard.
That's right. So
you don't want
approach the leaping lizards. Stay away from the lot lizards.
Yes, leaping lizards are cool.
All right. So Decker Farm, it was literally on the map. Visiting pilots landed in bright-colored small aircraft, and they'd stay a while, visited the crowd, grab a drink at the store, and then head back out. And passerbys would park their cars and watch the airplanes take off and land. And if they stayed around long enough, they'd get to see somebody watch the airplane. Now, I'll be right back. Dustin's going to talk to you for like a minute.
I wonder if in a Stephen King Night Flyer, he stopped at that airport.
Perhaps.
Okay, I wasn't prepared for this. But I don't really know anything about this, so awkward silence, what I'm good at. showing like over the years, the club grew and grew, about 65 members from South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and Knoxville area that came to compete in these skydiving things. That's neat. Local belief the Tennessee Falling Star skydiving team did not just leap from airplanes unless an active jumper and or student had been previously certified or had completed the required ground course. He or she was not permitted to board the aircraft. So if they didn't know how to fall out of a plane and not die, they weren't allowed to do it.
There you go. Happy New Year, everybody. I did get my kiss, and I may have grabbed a titty or two. Or I may not have. You just never know about these things. But we were so thankful to have you with us tonight. And Dustin, where did you end up on the
I saw that, over the next 10 years of it, more and more people got interested in it, and they were like, hey, if you don't know what you're doing, you ain't jumping out of a plane.
0 hour for you in Cali? How's that work? I thought you were 3 hours behind us.
It's 0001 right now.
Yeah. 0 hour. But yeah, basically I wanted to get to the end of it there. We had, anybody could basically learn. And
you could learn, but they wouldn't let you until you were actually educated.
Yeah, that's right.
Process of jumping from a perfectly good plane.
And they had the Tennessee Falling Stars skydiving team, and they didn't just jump from airplanes. They actually, became precision parachutists with they performed maneuvers once they were in the air, not just jumping out of the plane. So they would, glide through the air, line up a target, and land in a tiny target. That was one of their aims, and they would also get into formation in the air. And they were one of the first ones to really start with this, jumping multiple people out and forming formations and stuff. And
so, if you ever seen the 1990s Power Rangers live action movie, the intro of it when they're all jumping out of the plane to try to have that competition to land on the target. That's what they were doing back in the 60s.
Exactly, 30 years before. Here in Tennessee, down on the highway between Jonesboro and Greenville, you could see this stuff. And you could even have the Christmas holiday that has Santa Claus doing jumps all over the area. So you'd see Santa Claus jumping out of a plane. And you'd see, it was not out of the ordinary to see people standing in rows of 8 to watch people perform their maneuvers, and the children would come down and the childrens, and they'd bring their GI Joes and have them people jump with their GI Joes for them and stuff like this, so their GI Joes could take the jump. But I wanted to finish with this. Now this was written by Tommy Roger Dillo, who is a lieutenant colonel retired in I think the U.S. Air Force, but. Bill Decker, he was more enthusiastic in the mid-1980s when members of the United States Army parachute team sought permission to use his airfield. And for over a decade, members of the military skydiving team merged on his airfield in late August to practice air maneuvers prior to their evening performances at the, they still do the skydiving at the Appalachian Fair, and they would practice before they did that. And each year they would have, meet Bill Decker, and everybody would come practice and land in his field before they'd go out there. So this is from Roger Dillo, Tommy Roger Dillo, Lieutenant Colonel retired. He says, I visited with Bill Decker about a year before his death in 1997. At first he did not recognize me, but he knew my voice. He was happy to see me, and I was delighted to see him. Tears came to his eyes when he recalled all the times we had enjoyed at his country airport. For 2 hours, he talked about the airplanes, the Tennessee Falling Stars, their colorful canopies, the club's 2 tragedies, the cookouts, the children, and the crowds. He begged me to come back here and let's get started again. After the skydiving, the airport did not close. For approximately 4 years, small remote-controlled airplanes were flown at the airport by the Johnson City Remote Control Club. Each year, the fun flies were held. These were many different sizes and shapes of these small planes. People came from everywhere to attend these social events, and area churches and club members would set up food booths to raise money. When these small planes faded out, ultralight planes took their place and are still flying there today. The small airport, started in 1960 by William Deckard, is still bringing pleasure to the community. Now, I'm not sure if that's still the case. I was not able to find anything. Their Facebook page is no longer active. This book, I think, was written in 1999. Double check here. But this is I've got several of these Washington County history books. Some this one's 2001. So I've got some from '88 and some a little bit older. But what's up, Michael Crow? Good to have you in the chat. We got oh, I thought I had another one. Let's see. Here's Phil. We got Happy New Year's for everybody, and Crow's in there saying Happy New Year's, and we're talking about the skies falling. That's right. Man, we really appreciate y'all joining us. We've had such a good time doing this, and it's so glad, and I'm glad y'all feel cozy enough, because that's kind of the whole idea, right? Is that we want to have a place where people who think like us can basically feel good to get together, kick your feet up, have a Maker's Mark, have a Red Bull and vodka, have a little smoke, whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you relax, and discuss these events and these ideas that affect us every day, right? And we all have a bigger part to play in it than I think we even realize. But I think we having this place where we can kind of get together and vibe with one another and realize that there are other people that feel the same way as we do, and that's what this is meant to be. So if you're local here especially, but even if you're not, I mean, all this applies to wherever you live, but but if you are local, and remember all these things that you're seeing on your, I don't know, your Glenn Beck, your Alex Jones, your Tim Pool, whoever you watch, whoever you listen to, all these things that you see nationally happening, and you see a city, oh, this is happening in Chicago, this is all being implemented locally, right? So we've got to get together and form local citizens brigades of some sort, upright citizens brigades, perhaps. I like that. I didn't like the show, but I like the name of it. But the whole idea is, just like when the revolution was happening and people were meeting in taverns, right? We don't have to do that anymore because those guys did that. We don't have to meet in the dark of night and have, send passenger pigeons or ravens with secret messages that we encode. We can get together on the internet and we can discuss these things.
Do that.
No, we can.
That'd be kind of fun.
Well, hopefully we don't need to again. That's the whole idea, is that we do this on the internet now as an open forum, so we don't have to get into stuff like that again, because
I'm sure the pigeons would enjoy it, because they would actually have more fulfilling lives again, since we've totally uprooted their unless they got shot on the way, like the World War II or World War I. Did you know they were still using pigeons in World War I? Mm-hmm. They were like, you would think they'd be using radio, but no, they were sending. Wasn't there that one real famous pigeon that even got shot 2 or 3 times, and he still
delivered his message? Yeah, I think it was a Polish pigeon.
Yeah,
but yeah, they were still using, like, in the age of machine guns and trench warfare and triangle bayonets. There was passenger pigeons delivering where's that artillery going to go? Wait till the pigeon gets here and then we'll know.
Yep.
So it's kind of crazy all these things come together in these war technologies.
That's definitely way more encrypted. If you want it to be encrypted, send it by carrier pigeon.
Oh yeah.
It's a physical piece of paper attached to the pigeon.
Yep. And it's got to be intercepted. Now we're in an age of drone warfare, and this is a whole other thing we're going to talk about.
And also pigeons don't show up on radar.
And they can't be jammed. They do have. They are based on electromagnetism, as I understand, but I don't imagine that they could be jammed in the same way that a drone could. But I could be wrong.
I don't think so.
I did see though when I lived in Lynn Valley, right down the road here. Do you know where that big? It's a Sears farmhouse. It's very distinctive looking. It's one that's obviously, it was a farmhouse that was ordered from the Sears catalog and put together, and it's still up back there, and they've got a great big cell phone tower back behind them. When they put this cell phone tower up, this was around 2006, 7, something around there. They had just put it up, and I was out on my porch, and I was watching 2 groups of Canada geese come together. And usually you'll see groups of geese, they'll fly, and these geese crashed into each other. It was awful. I can't explain how awful this made me feel seeing this. But these geese just crashed into each other and just started falling. And I'm telling you, it was like there's just something not right and something wrong, not natural about it. And I did not like the way it made me feel at all. But I guess the point I'm getting in is we're going to have to learn about how to make drones do that in the near future. I think if you watch the footage coming out of Ukraine, you think you're going to protect your family with a shotgun rifle and a 4-wheel drive, you're probably going to need more than that.
We need to tap into some Tesla energy weaponry.
Something.
Some like radio.
Hey, love you too, Crow. And Crow loves both of us. We love you. We love you all. I'm so glad to have you with us. It's after midnight, so I think we're going to get off here. I'm gonna have a little more of my Maker's Mark and finish off my Red Bull here and go upstairs and have me a smoke and relax for the night and spend some time with B. But I'm so glad that you spent the time that you did with us. And if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, subscribe to the channel.
But a fun one.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube only, be sure to go over to X, make an account over there. It's free. You can make a premium account, and it's cool.
You get a check mark.
Yeah, that's right. But you can also just go over for free and check us out, jump in the chat over there. We'd love to have you. If you're over on X watching, you can go over to YouTube and watch us over there. We'd like to have you on both because, I mean, realistically, the likelihood that we're going to be banned on X is next to nothing. But the chances of being banned on YouTube are, more than nothing, more than zero. I mean, we've only had one. Yeah. We've only had one video struck, and I think they are letting people get away with it. I was worried forever that they were going to get me for saying tranny in a video. But I was watching Marjorie Taylor Greene and Roseanne on Roseanne's show, and they were saying it over and over again. They didn't get banned, so I think we're all right. But and then the whole, talking about election meddling and stuff like that, you really got to watch that with YouTube. But we don't have to worry about that on X. So go over there and follow us. And if you're on X, follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Rumble. And we'll all get together every week. We'll have a new topic for you. And on Thursday nights, we'll have news and current events roundup. We're getting into the political season, so that's about to be lit. So I hope you'll join me and Aaron Armageddon of the Armageddon Hour around Thursday at 10 p.m. Definitely go over and follow Armageddon Hour podcast. His description or his follow link is in the description of the video. And thank you again for joining the spill. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Dalton. Thank you, Duck. Thank you, what was it, Duck Rock? Was that his name?
Maybe.
He had some good comments.
Tim being there.
Tim, yes, that's right.
Yeah, Black Duck.
Black Duck, yes, thank you. We really appreciate you, and we hope you'll join us again, and we will see you on Thursday. Everybody have a happy new year, and be sure to honor Janus, right? Everybody,
Yep.
We appreciate you. Good night, everybody. Happy 2024.